What is the best stock to buy? I got this question asked to me in my comments section on a video just yesterday. I saw it. And I wanted to kind of answer that question, but I don't actually believe there is one stock that is the best stock to buy. Instead, probably the best stock to buy would be the entire US economy. Betting on the US economy has always played out well. The best time to do so when the US economy is on the ground. And so what would be the best stock to buy? I would start with the benchmark indexes, specifically SPY stock or the S&P 500, simply because this is a collection of 500 stocks and it represents the entire US economy. SPY stock, along with the US economy over the years, continues to move forward despite any big hangups we might have had. Certainly the 2008 financial crisis, the dot-com before that, and of course, COVID. But maybe SPY stock isn't necessarily the best stock to buy. Maybe you're a tech-savvy individual and what you're looking for is technology sectors which outperform the S&P 500. QQQ would be an excellent stock if that's what you're looking for right there. Now, of course, there are many who are going to sit there and say, you know what, SPY stock, they take too much money. Fine. There are a lot of other ETFs out there that replicate the S&P 500, and you can outperform that particular one by 0.2 percentage points. SPY stock is one of the biggest ETFs versus the United States economy, given that kind of perspective. So a lot of people actually prefer SPY stock. So let's jump in and I want to show you what it is I look at for as to when to pull the trigger, because that really is the bigger question. When should you buy the best stock? Let's jump in. If you're just finding my channel for the very first time, thanks so much for stopping by. This is actually my second channel. What I do here is I specifically break down the economy and show how that affects the stock market and how that affects individual stocks from the foundation of value investing. First and foremost, I am an economist and I follow the consumer the most, looking at their incomes, looking at their expenditures, and show how that drives the economy. Then, of course, there are other variables. How does the Federal Reserve react to that? What would eventually happen to the stock market based on that? So that's the foundation for what I do for my analysis here on this channel. Thanks so much for hitting the like and follow button. Like I said, this is a new channel for me. It is growing rapidly. Thanks again. So the question I got from the individual was, apparently he wanted, it was a quick question. He was looking to invest in his IRA account. First and foremost, make sure you max it out every year. If you did that, if you put a certain percentage into your IRA account and you did that year after year after year, and you maintain the same pace as the broader stock market in 25 years or so, when you're getting close to retirement, you're going to be doing quite well. Now, what is the best stock to buy? Again, I mentioned the overall broader economy, all 500 stocks within the S&P 500. Of course, you have NASDAQ index, which is 100 stocks. QQQ is a great way to get into that. Then there's another one that I like, XLK stock, which is the technology sector ETF. That one keeps pace with the NASDAQ, but it's a little more tech heavy than the NASDAQ 100 itself. But broadly speaking, the US economy can be looked at if you look at the S&P 500. SPY stock is a great way to participate in that. But where do I start? Real simple. I asked the question, how's the consumer doing? The consumer themselves is over 70% of the US economy. So then I asked the question, well, how much is the consumer spending? Because this is what is interesting. There are correlations. If the rate of growth of the consumer's income is increasing or decreasing, consumption will follow. And here we're looking at the chart. This is personal income versus personal expenditures, rate of growth year over year. You follow this chart, you have a pretty good idea as to what's going to happen next. This gets you ahead of the curve when it comes to investing in stocks and finding the best stock to buy. In this case, the blue line is personal incomes, and you can see, or I'm sorry, the green line is personal incomes. You can see it sort of ebb and flow. There are times when it moves lower, there are times when it peaks higher. Expenditures, the blue line, follows suit. And here's what's interesting. Consumers earn their income. Consumers spend their income. That's where revenue is generated from businesses. Now, businesses will also invest outside of what drives their inventories, things like this, because businesses will need to expand and invest in other areas in order to grab hold of as much of that income that consumers are spending at any one time. But you can actually see that play out in the stock market, because as incomes increase or decrease, expenditures follow suit, and so do revenues for companies. Given that, taking a look at where we are right now, we're a little on the low side for expenditures right now, and I think we're probably going to dip a little bit. But I also believe the Federal Reserve's probably going to have to make that happen a little bit, and that could be a good time to get involved once we see some kind of move lower in incomes and then expenditures. But this is the chart that I follow the most. If you follow the patterns of the consumer, which we can see in this chart right here, and their expenditures, you can also see the same growth in the stock market. Here I wanted to break down, this is the Spider Select, and I'm using XLK stock, the technology sector. And I like XLK stock a lot, but it is overvalued. The problem with XLK stock is it's heavily weighted on certain stocks, and those stocks are getting pushed a little higher. But if you look at, say, QQQ stock, which is the orange one there, or SPY stock, which is the turquoise color-esque, if you go back just over the past couple, the big move we saw all through November and December, you can see the rate of growth that we've seen in these stocks. Now, I expect we'll probably see some movements higher in both SPY stock and QQQ, because although interest rates are remaining a little bit firmer, consumers are spending money, which means those businesses are going to get more and more revenue, which means more and more profits, which means the stock prices need to go up. But by and large, the best stock to buy, for me, I always start with SPY stock, the S&P 500. That's your benchmark. Now, a lot of professionals are always looking to outperform SPY stock. But if someone's looking to invest money in an IRA account, they probably don't have the time to go through thousands of stocks and pick out any one particular stock that would outperform the stock market. So why not just invest in the stock market? Because as it turns out, a lot of money managers don't outperform the stock market. So how could someone who's a working professional, no matter what their industry is, if they don't have the time to go through and find the best stocks to buy, how could they expect to outperform money managers who that's their profession? They probably can't. So therefore, don't swim against the current, might as well flow with it. SPY stock is an excellent stock to buy. But, and again, I go back to NASDAQ. The United States of America isn't all that much into an industrial kind of economy as much as we are, say, technology. Given that, technology, the advancements in technology outpace the broader economy. So maybe QQQ stock could be one that you would want to look at. And as you can see, there are some outperformances just by 3% over the past month and a half to 2 months alone with QQQ versus SPY stock. Here's a bigger look at all three of those. I'm using actually SPY stock as the basis so you can see how QQQ stock and XLK stock outperform SPY stock. And this goes all the way back to about 2000 and I want to say 2004, just before the housing collapse in 2009, 2008, 2009. And of course, we had COVID in there. But as you can see, by and large, the best stock to buy here was, of course, QQQ. In the past 20 years, it's up 1,000%. What is the best stock to buy? Well, looking at QQQ stock with all those technology stocks hidden inside there, this one has outperformed what we could call the broader economy, which of course is SPY stock. SPY stock has banking in there. They have real estate. They've got all 11 sectors. They've got the utilities, industrials, metals, all sorts of different types of companies where the stocks themselves don't move up as much versus, say, the NASDAQ index, QQQ being the best bet there, obviously. So when you're looking at those kinds of stocks to buy, it isn't a matter of basing it versus any one particular stock as much as the broader economy, but it really boils down to timing. The best time to get involved, of course, would be when the United States is kind of on its back. It happens from time to time. Then the Federal Reserve will step in and rescue the United States. Then the stock market takes off. Warren Buffett always says, the great value investor, this one thing: be greedy when others are fearful, be fearful when others are greedy. We're pushing levels that are all-time high for a lot of these stocks. The Federal Reserve may have to step in. This may not be the best time to buy the best stock. Instead, you might want to consider, say, interest rates, United States Treasuries. US Treasury bonds are moving higher. The yield today, 4.14%. The 10-year Treasury bond is the measuring stick by which we look at all other stocks. This is the benchmark. The S&P 500, of course, outperforms the US 10-year Treasury note by a small percentage, only 1%. But unfortunately, inflation's sitting at around 3%, so that's going to get eaten up. But with the bond yields moving higher, the eventuality is the Federal Reserve might have to push bond yields up slightly, but eventually they will push yields back down. If yields go lower, price goes up. So the US 10-year Treasury, with bond yields as high as they are and slightly moving higher, could be considered a great investment at this time versus trying to find that one best stock to buy now. In this slide here, I've broken down all the various sectors you can look at. First, the Treasury yield, 4.14% is your yield. SPY stock, 5%. NASDAQ, 3.57%. XLK stock comes in a little lower at 3.2%. So for now, I would probably steer anyone to take a look at Treasury yields because I think the stock market might be a little too high right now that we will see prices move lower. I do believe the Federal Reserve is likely to raise interest rates. So if someone is looking for a long-term investment, buy and hold, throw it in the 401k or the IRA account, SPY stock, the benchmark for all stocks, is an excellent start. QQQ would outperform that. But right now, today, may not be the best time to buy the best stock to buy. Instead, you might want to wait until we see some movements lower in the overall stock market because it is at the absolute high. Remember what Warren Buffett tells us: be fearful when others are greedy. The stock market is at an all-time high. Sounds like a lot of people are being a little too greedy. Wait until we see some kind of major pullback in the stock market. That would be probably the wisest thing. Make sure to follow along if you're looking for this kind of content. I break down the U.S. economy. I break down how the economic indicators will impact the stock market based on what the Federal Reserve may do or what indicators are showing us is happening at any particular time. Then I show how that affects the broader stock market and individual stocks from a value investing standpoint. If you are looking for the best stock to buy, I would say invest in the United States of America. Because for me, it's always the proven winner. You're diversifying across the board. There are times when it is an absolute excellent time to buy the United States of America, the best stock. There are other times it's time to get out. We may be getting close to that point of needing to get out of the best stock, but in the meantime, we still need a little more information. Make sure to follow along, hit the like and follow button. We'll see you in the next video, and best of luck in your investing.